Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Wassalatu wassalamu ala rasulihi. Amma ba'du. I welcome you all to our Thursday evening Quranic presentation. And we're going to be here on the webinar instead of on Facebook. We may put the recording on Facebook later if that works out. We've been having a problem with Facebook, so we're going to start doing it here live. We'll put it on Facebook and on YouTube, and you'll be able to ask questions at the end of the presentation. I'll put you on mute until the end of the presentation. You can take notes, then you'll be able to ask questions. So we're looking at the Qur'an, chapter 16, verse 2. We're going through chapter 16, and we're looking at the main objective is comparing the logic, the thinking of Imam W.D. Muhammad with that of Ibn Arabi. That's a project that I'm working on. And in addition, we're working on putting the Imam in Arabic. So that's a project in the workings, and we'll see how that works out. And the conclusion that I'm writing, also put it in Arabic. So because this is the students here, the Mali students are here, I'm going to show the Arabic. You see the translation. You just want to sit and watch the words, see what words you recognize. Then jot down any questions you may have at the end. You may ask questions now, or on Tuesday you may ask questions. So we begin. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Yunazzilu al-malaikata bi-ruhi min amrihi ala man yasha'u min ibadihi. Try to read slow enough that you will see the words, not try to read fast, not speed read. So he says, Yunazzilu, he sends down. Yunazilu, and this is in form 2, so it's repeatedly. It's being with the shadda. It's with emphasis, emphasizing. So to emphasize is done repeatedly. He sends down the angels. We know he sends down the angels. It is in fatah as the object of the verb sending down. He sends down the angels biruhi, by the Spirit, with the Spirit, with or by the Spirit, in that some would say the angel is the Spirit, or the angel is coming with the Spirit, that the Spirit doesn't come alone. The Spirit is accompanied with the angel, that we may think of the angel being the Spirit. In the Qur'an, it says, and when we know what is the Spirit in particular, we may only have a little knowledge of it. But we do see the manifestation of it. Knowing what the Spirit is one thing, but seeing its manifestation is another. We see the manifestation of the Spirit. Min amrihi, from his command, from his order. We had the word amrihi last week. From his order, from his command, from his matter, from his situation. Ala, upon man yasha'u, whom he pleases. The Spirit comes down upon who he pleases, min ibadihi, of his servants. This verse we're looking at, just this part of the verse goes on. We're just looking at this part. If you go to chapter 16 too, there's more of the verse. This I'm calling the crux of the verse. We're looking at the crux of the verse. What follows has reference to this part that comes first. So, let's look at the definition, how this term Ruh is defined by Ragib al-Isfahani. And you all are familiar with the sources now, so I don't have to spend a lot of time explaining to you the sources. So it says, Ju'ila Aruhu, so the Spirit. The Spirit, Ruh, is made, is isman, a name lenefsi, a name for the soul. So we have two entities. We have Ruh and we have nefs. In English, soul and spirit may be the same. The soul may be spiritual, and the spirit is spiritual. And there may be other spiritual, we would say spiritual entities, in that our English language may be restricted somewhat. But what I want you to think on is the Ruh and nefs. The Ruh and nefs. It's throughout Qur'an. So let's look, we're looking at the Qur'an, not English, and drawing our logic from Quranic Arabic and not English. وَذَلِكَ, he continues, and that is لِكَوْنِ النَّفْسِ, that is for the existence of the soul, is ba'du aruhi, is some of the spirit, some of. So the soul itself, some of it is aruh. Some of it is ruh. Now, let me go on and I'll come back to it. He says, katasmiyati and na'i, like the naming of a kind, designating the kind, be ismi al-jinsi, by the name of the species. So the thing in terms of kind, the kind of thing it is, it may be named by the species. For example, he says, Nahu, tasmiyatu al-insan, the designation of insan, the naming of insan, al-insan, of man, of the human being or mankind, bil hayawani, is by the animal. Is by the animal. Because a portion of mankind, we could say, is hayawan, is animal. So we may designate man as being an animal because a portion of man is animal. Not all of man, a portion of man. Not all of the soul is ruh, a portion of it is ruh. So we can see in the Qur'an now, we talk about nafsan wahida. That Allah created you from nafsan wahida. One nafs. Minha, and from it. From it is made. But the it that we could be speaking of is a ruh. That's why I'm using the ruh in the masculine. The ruh may be conceptually masculine for masculine or feminine, conceptually. But here, in grammatically, I'm using it as masculine because it mates with the nafs, which is feminine. Now, this idea I'm giving It's coming from me. I'll say that much. But this, what we're saying, that some of this ruh is already a part of the nafs. Then the nafs mates with the ruh. If that makes sense. So he continues to say, وَجَعَلَ isman, and he makes a name, لِلْجُزْءِ, for the portion. For the portion. That's what we're saying. He makes a name for the portion, الَّذِي بِهِ, which by it, to salu al-hayatu, life is obtained. وَتَحَرُّك, and movement is obtained. So it's a name, it's the portion. We can say it's the portion of the animal, it's the portion of the nafs in which life is obtained. Life is realized, or movement. That's causing the movement. Movement and life is by the ruh. That portion of the soul that we may name the whole soul ruh. But it's just a portion of the soul. For example, we've had this in the Balagha class where you take the portion of a thing, just a portion of it, but we may define the whole thing by the portion. We may take face. Now we take face, we know what the face is. The part of the body that has the mouth, the nose, the eyes, so forth and so on. That's the face. But we may say face, but actually we're taking a portion of the human being to define the whole human being, physically as well as spiritually. When we say face, we may be speaking of the whole character, the whole personality and character of the person, though we're only using the face, a portion. When we make the salat, we say ruku, we have rakats, a unit, the whole unit, standing, bowing, standing again, prostration, sitting, all of that is one unit. When we form all of it is one unit. But the whole unit may be defined by ruku, a portion of it. So we call it rakat. A portion of it is defining the whole thing. So here, even though you have these two entities, you have the nafs and the ruh, some of the nafs, some of it is given to the nafs, some of the ruh, because a portion of it is given to the nafs, we may define the whole nafs as ruh. But that portion is the life and movement is obtained by that portion. Without the ruh, the nafs, without the ruh, if it has movement, if it has life, it's only to the extent of hayawan. But when the ruh enters into it, it becomes more than hayawan, it becomes now insan. Insan. I hope you follow. If not, write notes and ask the question. Now, this is Ragib. It gives us an idea. Now we go to Ibn Arabi. He says, Yunazzilu al-malaikata bi-ruhi. And what I'm doing, I'm taking from Ragib, I'm taking from Ibn Arabi, so I'm not quoting verbatim. I'm taking from Imam W. Muhammad, I'm not quoting verbatim. Sometimes you have people who are not, I can say these things, they won't hear it. And they'll try to, oh, well, he didn't say it like that. He said it like this. He didn't say that. He said this. So you have to hear what I'm saying in that I'm taking from them. And I'm trying not to present so much at one time. It's for the students. Those outside of Mali, it's not for you. You listen, you benefit, it's not for you. It's for the students. And we have follow-up in the classes. Because I'm teaching. I'm not trying to show how much I know. I'm teaching step by step. But I stay a little bit ahead of the class so you can see where you're headed. So if you sit back and watch, you'll see where you're headed. When you get to this level, it won't be foreign to you. You'll move easier with it. So yunazzilu al-malaikata biruhi, commenting on this portion, Ibn Arabi says, that is to say, al-ilmi. So he's defining, he's saying ilmi, this ruh he's associating with ilmi, al-ilmi. It ends in a kasra, so how do we know? We go back. Everything that he's saying until we get to the next parentheses is in reference to what's inside the parentheses. This is how you read, this is how you all are learning to read King Fahd. If you learn to read King Fahd and translate King Fahd grammatically, then you'll be able to read Ibn Arabi or Ibn Kathir, which I use sometimes because you're using them in the class, because it's not Quranic Arabic. They're not using Quranic Arabic or the style of the Quran with words as they do in their commentary. Their commentary is basically straightforward Arabic. The Quran, the words may flip around. You may have ellipses where words have been omitted but understood. Different things with the Quran that makes it the book it is. So we see this is al-ilmi. It's going to refer back to, I'm giving this, referring back to ruh. This ruh is knowledge. It's knowledge. It contains that. It contains knowledge. We can say in places we have made reference, it contains light. The light. When we say the light comes on, we're talking about ilm. It's with the ruh. Alladhi, which yuhyi, it causes the life, it enlivens. Bi al-qulub, the hearts are enlivened by it. The hearts are enlivened. The hearts come to life by it. So if we go back and think about the nafs and the ruh, they mate. When they're mating, think about this and think about the hadith that's given so that it may help. Well, but we read in Qur'an. We're going to get to that too. We read in Qur'an, but when the ruh, we talk about the period of development in the womb. It's when the ruh, when the angel come with the ruh again, the angel with the ruh, or the ruh coming in the form of an angel, we could say, when it enters and mates with the nafs in this development, then this knowledge is said, the knowledge comes, and that knowledge is the knowledge that will define that person, according to the hadith. It will define that person, gives measure to that person in terms of what that person will be or what have you. Everyone is not accompanied with the same capacity for knowledge in everything. Everyone does not have in it the capacity to be an artist. No matter how hard you may try in any profession, you may not be successful at being an artist, but you may be very successful in another field. You may have something that you have been given by Allah, a perfection for it, where you may not have a perfection for something else. Because that that ruh, it becomes ba'du nafs, it becomes some of it, and that some of it is that knowledge that's there. But this mating take place, it brings life. It brings life to the heart. Well, we say that the heart is born out of it. This knowledge that the ruh, this ruh, we call it knowledge now. It's a kind of knowledge that comes. It becomes part of the soul, and by the two of them, it brings about the heart. We're talking about man and his spirituality now, not the animal heart. We're talking about the heart that becomes the foundation, becomes the validation for the knowledge of the intellect. It's born out of this ruh. Yes, but the ruh is not alone. The ruh mates with the soul. Yes. The ruh comes with the angel, it mates with the soul. And then we see the influence of it as the heart comes to life. Ya'ni, it means al-Qur'an. This knowledge is al-Qur'an that comes. Now, without elaborating for time, the first breath, we say the breath of life that comes in the womb, that's the first breath. And we see this mating taking place then. Then Allah brings us to another creation. And now we have a second breath of the ruh. This breath, the ruh, the knowledge that we have, a second breath coming with the knowledge in the ruh, as one in this sense, is al-Qur'an. It has in it, the Qur'an has in it the ruh. How can we say this? So if we go to the verses on the night of power, we say we send it down, and Zelanar Bilaylatul Qadr, in the night of power. And it goes on to tell you, and this again, the angels and the ruh descends, and we're saying that comes down is the Qur'an. And with the Qur'an, the angels and the ruh, it descends. So the ruh, this ruh is in the Qur'an. And that's the second breath. Yes. Min alami, from the world. We could say from the world, when we say emrihi, from his order, from the world of his order, from the world of his concern, from the world of his emrihi, of his command. Alladhi, which in takasha. We say which in takasha, which extract, which is extracted in it, which is extracted. This Qur'an, this ruh, is extracted from this world that Allah has created in the spiritual sense, we may say. Allah, upon man yasha, whom he pleases, min ibadihi. And this his servant is el-mahsusina. El-mahsusina, those he's speaking of specifically, those specifically, be mazidi, by the increase inayatihi. That should be inayatihi. We may have a couple of typos here that I may have made. That should be iyanatihi. His concern. So now we're going to see Allah's concern. The ibadihi are those that Allah is specifically concerned about, which we could say is all of humanity. Allah is concerned about all of his humanity, but those who are his servants, those who consciously chooses to serve him, or are chosen to serve him, but choose to serve him, because he created the man and the jinn to serve him, to be ibad. The man and the jinn to be ibad. Yes. Because this is going to take us to the Imam. Like I said, I don't want to do too much, say too much, but there should be a lot in what I'm saying. So let's go to Imam W.D. Muhammad in this. He says, "I'tabara ba'adu al-hukami." Some of the governments, some of the rulers, and I'm extracting this from the Imam without, I'm not doing it literally. I'm extracting the purposely, extracting the logic from Imam W. Muhammad. So some of the rulers in the past, Tabara considered that Ammatan Nasi, that the common people, the common public, Hayawanatun, are animals, that they consider that the common people are hayawanat, they are animals, meaning that they have not been influenced by revelation. They have not been influenced by Qur'an. They don't have the spark. They have not been influenced by the second breath of the Ruh. Therefore, they're just hayawanat. They're just animals. They're not considered al-insan. That's what they're saying. Ala aragmi min annahum, this expression here, this idiom here is saying, though, in spite of the fact that they live in ajsamin bashariyatin. They live in the human body. They live in the human body, but yet they are defined as animal. Yes. Yes, the animal, the human body, and some of it is animal. Yes. The human body, some of it is vegetable, plant. Some of it, not all of it. But what defines in this context, what defines the thing, the kind, is the fact that it has been inspired, that it has, causing its life and movement, a spark of revelation. And these rulers at a time were saying the common public doesn't have it. And even today, the common public is treated that way. The Muslim common public is treated that way by the Muslim governments, the Muslim rulers. And I'll show you why I'm making a statement. They're only considered animals. Considered and treated like animals. The African American, as slaves, were treated and considered animals. They were not considered human. El-Insan, the Arabic makes it clear. They were not considered El-Insan. Yes, they live in the human body, but they're not considered human in sense of El-Insan. They are considered human in the sense of Hayawan. Why? Because they lack that spark, that light, that that knowledge that accompanies revelation. And they have not been inspired. Yes. And we could show other proofs, but not to belay the time. ولكن but أعطى الله كل إنسان شيئا من روحه. But Allah gives, He gives every insan, which is of His ibad, which is of the higher land that has in it the nafs and the ruh. He gives something min ruh, meaning some of his ruh. He gives something of his ruh every kulla insan, kulla bashari, if you want to put it that way. He gives of his ruh. Nuridu, Imam Muhammad continued, Nuridu, we desire an yakuna, that hada ar-ruh, that this ruh, this al-hurr, this free ruh, lil afdali, is for al-afdali al-bashari, is for human excellence. This free, this ruh, it frees man. You want freedom? Then if we take all that we're saying, the Qur'an has come to man to give man freedom. That's the breath. That's the ruh. And we desire this for the excellence, for human excellence. And it works in the society. Min ajli, for the purpose of causing excellence in the society. Yes. This is Allah's concern for all of His creatures who live in the body, in the human body. All of them that live in the human body, the Qur'an comes to all of them. That Muhammad the Prophet, the praise and peace be upon him, listen to what I'm going to say. That he gave the Qur'an to the common public. Now, if you want to say someone doesn't deserve the Qur'an, someone doesn't deserve the teaching of the Qur'an, someone doesn't deserve the Qur'an and we put it in their hand, it should have been the Arabs. Who was more exemplifying the essence of the ruh in terms of their life and movement? Who will be defined more animal than the Arabs at the time of Muhammad the Prophet? This was not an advanced cultural society that some of us want to think. This was the common of the common, the most common people in human form, in a human body, lacking knowledge, lacking scripture, lacking Quranic type knowledge, scriptural knowledge. It was them. But did Muhammad the Prophet have prerequisites for them in order for them to be given the Quran? No, he gave the Quran to all of them, each of them. Why? Because Allah gives kulla insan, every human being, something of his ruh. And from the Quran, everyone has the potential. Because the potential is put in them when they're in the womb, that the ruh is breathed into them in the womb. It gives them the potential when they come into this new creation as a human being. They automatically have the potential for the ruh in this created life. And therefore they have potential for reading Quran and getting some of the ruh from it, being inspired by it. That's how we're to see our public. We're not to see our public that you have to have 9 volumes of hadith, of sayings of the Prophet before you get the Quran. That was not the prerequisite for Muhammad the Prophet. He didn't say, listen to me preach first and then I'll give you the Qur'an. He didn't come like that. He gave them the Qur'an, and giving them the Qur'an, they observed his actions. They observed his behavior. And he's teaching the Qur'an in his behavior, that they would understand the Qur'an. But they were given the Qur'an. So we shouldn't say, well, how do the Muslim rulers, hukam, those who are governing, do they give the Qur'an first, or do they give their own logic, their own ideas, or they tell the public, you can't get it? How many people throughout the Muslim world, I've said it before, I say it again, how many people throughout the Muslim world who call themselves Muslims can recite the Qur'an so beautifully and then say, and can be touched by the spirit of it, because they're going to say it's not my language. They don't get the ilm. They don't get the ilm from it because they say it's not my language, even though Allah has created us to learn each other's languages. Allah has created us to learn the language of Qur'an. But we haven't come up with the governments. I'm talking about all of them have not come up with a system that requires that their public learn to read the Qur'an and get ruh, some of that spirit from it. That free spirit that would make them, that they would come into their human excellence without being the ibad to another man. That's the true freedom. Yes. So I conclude by saying, Kullu insan yastahiqqu inayat Allah. That every human being, insan, every human being, yastahiqqu, has the right. He has the right. Inayat Allah. He's deserving. Yastahiqqu, he deserves the right of having the concern of Allah. Not the concern of man, the concern of Allah. And what's Allah's concern? Yajibu ta'limul Qur'an. That the Qur'an must be. The teaching of the Qur'an is a must. That the common man is able to read it with comprehension, that in order that, and that, we can say, yuta'atharu, that he be influenced by the ruh. يجب تعليم القرآن لأن عامة الناس يمكنهم قراءته. That they are able, that its reading is not only a must, but they can be fahmi and get understanding, that they will be influenced by the ruh. That should be the goal of every government, every Muslim government. Whether your government is no bigger than a 10-person masjid, or your government is the size of Canada, it doesn't matter. Allah is concerned for all of his subjects, and you have no right to define them as animal, treat them as animal, throw them aside because they have not yet been influenced by the rule. I thank you for your time, and I will now open the lines that if you have a question. If you have a question, you may now ask a question. The phone lines are open. They're all open. You have noise in the background. You can mute yourselves. Let me make it this way. So if you have a question, you can press *6 and unmute yourself and then ask the question. You press *6 and your phone will open and you can ask the question. I'll give you a few seconds. If not, I'll take it that there are no questions. Okay, I thank you for your time. Assalamu alaikum. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen.